Everybody, we're really happy that you're here with us today for our workshop, Self-Care for Parents and Guardians During a Global Pandemic. So we're going to move into sort of the meat of our presentation around self-care itself for parents. And one of the things that we as counselors ask people to really take a look at is what is essential right now and what can I let go of? And this is especially important right now during the time of COVID, because many of us are just not our best selves right now, and we really need to prioritize what is absolutely essential. And that's where we're going to put our limited energy and time and strength into. So these are some things to consider when you're looking at what is essential and what can you let go at. You know, it's important to recognize that this is tough. It's tough for everybody. And while we are all in the same storm, we are in very different boats. And that's important to keep in mind when you're thinking about yourself and your family and your children. What does your boat look like? How storm worthy is it? And how is it sort of managing in this particular COVID storm? These are some things that we're going to talk a little bit more about, but that people often find helpful. And many of these were on the list of the sort of self-care assessment survey. A few things that weren't were the things around separating out what you can and can't control, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, taking a break from the news, and really being able to recognize and validate grief. We've missed out on a lot of things. Our kids have missed out on things that we wanted for them. Depending on the grade level of your child, they may have missed really important milestones. They've missed really important parts of, they've missed trips, they've missed sports tournaments, they've missed graduations, they've missed lots of things. And we, as parents, feel sad for them, right? It's important for us to recognize that this is a sad, sad time. Some of us missed going home for the summer or have missed connecting with friends and family on special occasions. So that's something to think about when you're assessing how you're doing right now. And pandemic fatigue, kind of recognizing the pandemic fatigue that you may be feeling. This is an actual thing. It's a phenomenon, it has a name, it's being researched, but at this point, we're a year and a half in almost, and it's getting really old. And I think that the fact that we're all feeling it, so if you look at this and you think, oh yeah, I see all of these traits in myself, or I see them in my spouse, or I see them in my child, it's because it's an actual real thing. So recognizing that is important. Sometimes if we know what's wrong with us, it makes it a little bit less scary and a little bit less anxiety provoking. So we're going to talk now through a couple of tips around taking care of yourself and managing this pandemic fatigue that we know we're all feeling.
Hey. Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Ruhl, and I'm a school psychologist in the middle school and high school. Thank you so much for joining us today and just taking the time to work through this together and think together. Some of the tips that we're about to share, I think likely you've already seen or and I kind of view it as a reminder and kind of taking stock of, as Colleen said, our boat in the storm we're in. So this first one about recognizing what is and isn't in our control is a really important piece. Right now, there's just so much that is not in our control, and it forces a level of adaptability and flexibility that likely many of us have maybe never experienced in our lives. Maybe you have. One example I was thinking of the other day, things like nutrition, sleep, exercise. Some of the time that I have during the day, is my own time. So what I do at that time within the house or within the apartment or whatever your situation is, that's what is in my control. So one parent I was talking to the other day with several kids and a job and just very, very busy, has a spot in their house where they're able to go to and just take a little bit of time out to center themselves. This person even talked about giving themselves they buy like a small facial. So put a facial on, sort of check out for a little bit, just that centering time, and that's in their control.
The ability to set and maintain boundaries. This isn't easy to do as a parent because oftentimes we have a lot of questions, a lot of requests coming our way from our family and those around us. And it can be difficult sometimes to say no, or to say I need some time for myself. And it may even feel selfish to do that. But one thing to keep in mind is that when we do set boundaries as a parent, we're modeling that behavior for our children, and we're teaching them something really, really valuable. So if you are kind of done for the day, or you need 15 or 20 minutes of alone time, and you need maybe even just to close the door to your room, this is just an example, and you just need some space, it's okay to say that you need that to lock the door, and as long as you know your kids are going to be safe and it's all going to be okay. Again, you're teaching them that literally there's a physical boundary of my door, but also there's an emotional boundary. I need a few minutes to myself. And again, it's really important that our kids see us maintaining our boundaries and setting them so that they too can learn how to do that as they grow up.
And we also recognize that many of you are working and trying to balance your family, and so it's really important to have those boundaries around when your workday starts and when your workday finishes. Otherwise, you might find yourself on your computer, 16 hours a day, and that is not good for anybody.
Next, it's always important for us to be reflecting on our own feelings and needs. That can be very difficult as parents, as we know that you are probably pulled in many, many directions in terms of taking care of your children and your work life, your home life. So something we can do is really get specific and name the feeling and why we may be feeling that way. So I'm feeling very exhausted because I've had a long work day. What might I need at this moment? I think I need to bring my energy levels up. I think I'll build some time for myself after work to go for a walk. Could be one example. And the more that we're able to do this, the more our children will see us being able to do this as well.
And our kids might be melting down because they're not great at naming the feelings. So it's something you can also ask them to do. You can say, I'm frustrated. I really wish that we could go and visit Grandma and Grandpa this holiday. And it's making me sad and it's making me frustrated. How are you feeling about that? You may be able to give them sort of entry points and like prompts to talk through and name the different feelings that they're feeling right now, as well as recognizing your own grief and your own feelings. You have permission to say, I'm struggling right now and I need support. Sometimes it's really hard for us to say, to sort of differentiate between ourself now and ourself, 18 months ago. Things are really different, and lots of people are struggling. There is no shame in that. There's no stigma in that. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so things that you would normally be able to handle by yourself, or that wouldn't faze you or wouldn't be a big deal, can feel much more onerous right now, much tougher right now. And so if you're finding yourself in that situation, think through, who is in my support network? Who can I talk to about this? Who can I vent to? Who can I call? What would make me feel better? Everybody needs a hand, and I think as a community, that's something we are really trying to recognize, including part of why we decided we wanted to offer something like this to parents, because it's tough, and we know that it's tough, and we all have to take care of each other, especially as in a community overseas where a lot of us don't have family close by. So it is important to reach out and important to know that it is totally okay to do that right now.
Right. So the next one is acknowledge moments of gratitude and joy. So this is really looking for moments of joy, connection, and holding on to them. And I certainly know just from my own self and lots of friends and colleagues, and parents, kids that I'm talking to, this can be really challenging because there's a lot that is really tough right now. And at the same time, it's really, really so important. Lots of research shows that when we show gratitude, when we recognize gratitude, when we think about what moments do we have that are worth celebrating, that are joyful in our day, it just brings us a little bit more calm, a little more centered. And some can be really little things. I was talking to a family the other day where they just said, it's almost never in our time in this lifetime we've had a chance to sit down for breakfast. And right now we get that time. And they were saying, I'm home, partner's home, my kids are home, we're all home, we have breakfast together, and that's unusual. So it can be as simple as something like a breakfast together, even though sometimes it'd be nice to all be able to get out of the house. It is an opportunity to go ahead and recognize those moments of joy. Another thing a colleague shared was something called a 5-minute journal that is it's an app that you can get for your phone, and it's just a daily journal. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes, maybe, and it just sets some intentions, and it sets your focus on those intentions that you have for gratitude and joy for that day.
The next slide is prioritize relationships. What is essential and what can I let go of? Ryan mentioned that, one family is, they're eating breakfast together and they're prioritizing their relationships in that way by spending that time, that purposeful time together. So just, figuring out, is there kind of anything that I do need to let go of that's maybe more draining right now that I just don't have the energy for? And then what do I need to focus on? And prioritize those specific relationships. So maybe some of you have a couple of really, really good friends here in our community or outside of the community that you've been friends with for a long time, holding on to those and prioritizing those, but maybe some of those second or third tier relationships of people that maybe you weren't as close with, maybe it just takes a lot of energy to keep that level of socializing up. So again, it's just it's focusing on your priorities and the relationships that are most important to you, and then putting the energy and time into those.
And lastly, a big takeaway that we're hoping all of you take home with you today is we really hope that you are able to give yourself a break. We acknowledge that your best right now may look different than it did pre-COVID, and that's okay. We're all there with you. You are not a machine, and your best will look different each day. That's totally okay.
Hopefully you've had a chance to talk and think through those tips, and hopefully you can come away today feeling supported and also have maybe some concrete ways to help yourself and your family. This is the part we're sort of wrapping up here, and it just says ask for help. And counselors and psychologists in all divisions are available, and we're here for our community. We have an updated list of available mental health resources, and the conversations are confidential. So it's really an invitation for you to reach out if you have questions, or if you'd like support, or you'd like to talk something through. Reach out anytime. We're here. We see this as a partnership. And this last one is really a reminder. We all have bad days and weeks, but we can always ask for help. So we can always ask for help. But if you or someone that you know or love is feeling that, it's longer than 2 weeks where you're feeling overwhelmed, you're really having trouble sleeping, trouble regulating your emotions, or feeling a sense of hopelessness, or a feeling of numbness, any of these things for a couple of weeks, or if it's significant. So sometimes it doesn't have to wait 2 weeks. If you feel really overwhelmed, you can reach out. And again, it's an invitation to reach out. And we will work with you and try to get you the support you need.
But that concludes our presentation for today. We appreciate you coming, and we are all in this together. So please let us know how we can continue to support